It's Charles D'Angelo, and today I'm joined by David Richo, legendary psychotherapist, teacher, and author whose work has not only helped me in so many different ways to understand some of the most challenging and meaningful parts of life and being human, but his perspective on love, on suffering, and on personal growth has influenced some of the greatest thinkers of our generation. His latest book, Sweeter Than Revenge, explores something we all experience at times, but don't always know how to work through: the pull toward resentment and the possibility of choosing something much deeper instead. Dave, I'm so grateful to have this time with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Charles, and I'm happy to be here. And thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So we'll get right into it. Can you tell me, what do you think people most misunderstand about the desire for revenge or resentment?
I think most people don't realize the central psychological purpose of revenge is to avoid the appropriate feeling that goes with being offended, hurt, betrayed, disrespected, snubbed. We just automatically go to hit back in some way when the appropriate feeling is grief. I feel sad that I was treated this way. I'm angry that I was treated this way. Instead of opening up a dialogue and sharing that, we go straight to payback. I believe that revenge is directly connected to the avoidance of grief. And I would like to share one line from Shakespeare, and this is from the play Troilus and Cressida. Troilus speaking: "The hope of revenge shall hide our inward woe." Woe in Shakespeare's time meant grief. So in modern English, the chance that we can get revenge will cancel the actual feeling we're having, which is grief.
So, in some way, we believe that avoiding the sadness, avoiding anger, which is distinctly different from abuse.
Yeah, they have to speak up to the other person and say, ouch, that really hurt. To be that assertive, that too is a big challenge for most of us, unless you live in New York,
Well, I'm going to go
uh,
right. I'm going to go right to that.
where
When,
you feel the freedom to talk like that.
and
Uh,
also avoid fear, right? Because so many of us are fearful that we can't handle the response that we might experience if we do have the courage to address the issue with the other.
yeah. See, the appropriate response to any kind of hurt feelings, offenses, and so forth, first you're going to feel your grief on your own. Then you're going to speak up and talk directly to the person who has caused you harm and share that experience of grief that you're having. I call it the ouch. Ouch, when you did this, I want you to know how it felt over at this end. It really hurt my feelings. Then you open up a dialogue in which you both talk about the origins of any offense and the origins of grief. They're the same. They're forms of suffering. Tell me what I must have done that led you to do this to me. And I'm not going to do it back because I don't design my behavior on the basis of what other people do. I
Hmm.
have my own way of handling whatever may happen in relationships. And my way is to say ouch and open a dialogue if you're open to it. Now, if the other person doesn't want to have a dialogue, you still don't retaliate. You just feel at a loss, more grief, but you're going to have respect for the other person's boundaries. It may mean there's a strain on the relationship and it's going to be hard to continue the way it used to be. Or it could be sometimes that you're going to say, well, when you're ready to have a talk, let's do it. And until then, I'm just going to be hoping that it'll happen.
Do you think, Dave, as I'm hearing you speak, and you know about the decades of work I've done with people who struggle with self-destructive habits, typically in regard to using food in a way that causes enormous pain in their lives, do you think that sometimes this type of retaliation is something that happens within an individual, that we retaliate against ourselves? We act out self-destructively rather than opening a dialogue within ourselves?
Absolutely. And I have a whole section in the book on that topic. I call it self-retaliation. And yes, food also, overeating, for instance, could also be a way of hurting ourselves, taking it out on ourselves, taking out what? The sufferings that we're going through in the world around us, the addictions that we get caught up in are often other avoidances of grief. It's appropriate to feel great grief daily, especially if you read or watch the news daily.
So would you say it's actually a sign of psychological health to allow in feelings of sadness, feelings of anger, and to be in touch with legitimate and rational reasons to be afraid?
Yes, and by the way, the sadness and the anger and fear are the components of grief. So this is a special kind of anger. It is connected to how you personally feel hurt by what's happening.
And when you say when you feel personally hurt by what's happening, do you have an example?
Yes, somebody snubs you and it kind of hurts your feelings. Instead of checking it out, we turn it into resentment, which means we feel that anger toward the other person, but we never express it directly. The only way you can find alternatives to revenge is to be assertive. You have to be able to speak up as part of this program. Otherwise, people are going to walk all over you. And this is not the alternatives to revenge are two, and neither one of them is about being a doormat. The first alternative to revenge is just don't retaliate. You're just not going to retaliate. No ouch, no dialogue, no. We all have that choice. No one has to retaliate. And then, secondly, we have a spiritual alternative. Not only do we not retaliate, we even care about our relationship with the other person and want to make it better. How can I take what's happened and do something good that will upgrade the relationship altogether?
Wasn't that part of the Sermon on the Mount? Do good unto
Yes.
those who hurt you.
Yes, the Bible says specifically, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. So, do good to those who hurt you takes you one more step beyond this golden rule, do unto others as you would
You would
like
have
them
done
to
unto you.
do unto
Sure.
you. Now you're not only doing that, you're also going to do something good. That is the moment in which your experience of an offense has turned into a spiritual practice. What I said before about feel the grief, say ouch, open a dialogue, try to reconcile with the person, try to understand each other better for the future. All that is the psychological work. And when you go the next step with the Sermon on the Mount, which basically proposes nonviolence as a spiritual practice, now you're in the spiritual realm.
And I think that that type of shift would come as a function of grace, right?
I see it as happening because of grace. By grace, I mean the gift dimension of life, the sudden automatic shift that makes you say something that has more wisdom than you knew you had in your mind
And you even
before,
possessed, yeah. Uh-huh.
that makes you act with more courage than you ever could imagine you would have had. It's like suddenly you access something bigger than you know was ordinarily in you. We call that grace. That's like layperson's view rather than the theological religious meaning of grace. But the religious meaning of grace is in the same exact category. We all have examples of things that we know came from a place that was beyond our ego.
Absolutely. Yeah, bigger than ourselves. And as I think about our years of relationship and friendship, both of us being Italian, and both having an affinity for films like The Godfather, where it's so obvious that for Italians, and I won't generalize for everybody, but I think you would agree with this, revenge, I think you once said revenge is a sacrament in the in the Italian culture. So when you see a film like The Godfather, where revenge and loyalty are so intertwined, what do you see psychologically happening in someone like Michael Corleone as he becomes more consumed by that world?
It's the death of your soul, and
Mm.
it's a descent into deep atheism.
So when they portray revenge as justified and even honorable, why do so many people seem to resonate so deeply with that narrative?
Well, it's an ancient human experience that in order to maintain your honor, you have to engage in revenge, payback. Don't let people walk all over you. Instead of, well, it's not binary. It's not either they're going to walk all over you or you're going to do payback. You can speak up, say ouch, and so forth, and not let them walk all over you, but at the same time, not hit back the way they hit you. Retaliation is copycat,
Tit for tat.
forgiveness,
Tit for
and
tat, right?
yeah, the program, psychological and spiritual program, is new. It's something you're doing. It's from you. It's not that you're just doing what the other person did to you.
This might be a question, Dave, you never received before, but as a father of young children, nearly a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, it sounds like a lot of these habits are learned early in life. That is a capacity to resist the natural primitive impulse we have to injure someone who's injured us. What do you think young parents could do to help shape their children in the direction of a far more sophisticated and loving approach like you're presenting?
Well, let me answer the question the way a participant in one of my workshops answered. I was on this topic, and she was a kindergarten teacher.
Okay.
And she said, when one kid hits another kid, I separate them and I say to the one who did the hitting, what happened that made you want to hit little Johnny? And of course, he always has a reason that has something to do with being offended. And then I, the teacher, say, but you have words for that. You don't have to hit. You can say that to Johnny rather than immediately have to hit him. And I thought, well, that's just that kindergarten lesson. I mean, that's what we need to teach our children. By the way, you said more and more they might go toward retaliation. Remember that it's in our DNA. It's a survival technique from ancient primitive times. If village knows that we in village B will hit back hard if they raid us and take away our stored grain, they are less likely to attack. If they think we're just going to let them do it and not react with aggression, then they're going to walk all over us. The people who believe that in ancient times, those are our ancestors. So it's right in here in the whole body. It's just automatic.
And I don't want you to have to in any way share anything political, But from a psychological perspective, what do you think it says about our culture in the moment, given there are so many people who are possessed by a very divided spirit, us versus them, never mind what side of the aisle they might be on? What do you think that says about what's going on psychologically and spiritually for so many of us?
Yeah, it says we're descending into chaos and it's happening on a daily basis.
Do you have any idea as to why
I
that's
mean,
occurring now? Why do you think that's coming up now? Do you have any thoughts on?
once the Constitution is no longer the reliable source, frame, and container for our system of justice, then all bets are off.
How do you think we deal with that as people in a healthy way? What's the psychologically healthy way to contend with that degree of uncertainty?
Grieve and protest, such as in the No Kings protest. You're joining with others who feel the way you do, gives you a sense of community, a sense that you're supported in your point of view.
What would be the psychological aspect of that process? Because you always work to integrate the psychological and the spiritual. So, what would be the spiritual side to that process?
It's always spiritual when your commitment is to co create a world of justice, peace, love, and care for the planet. When your orientation is toward the achieving of those four goals, that's spirituality.
So I want to be respectful of your time. I just have a couple of few final questions here. Um, After everything that you've studied, you've been a therapist for over, what is it, 55 years? 55 years, you've seen thousands of clients over your career, both individuals and couples. How do you personally understand the meaning or purpose of life today?
The purpose of life is to make the most of it. Also, purpose of a spiritually conscious life is co-create a world of justice, peace, and love, and care for the planet. We can't have a world if instead of justice, there's injustice. Instead of peace, there's war. Instead of love, there's hate. Instead of care for the planet, there's destroy the planet. We can't survive that way. So it must be that our universal calling has to be the alternative to all that. It's not just a spiritual calling, it's actually what we need to survive.
How do you make sense of suffering, especially when it involves people who would seem completely innocent?
Well, the given of life is that suffering is universal, and the mistake we make is to think that happiness is a reward and suffering is a punishment. That does not align with our experience because good people suffer, bad people suffer. Good people are happy, bad people are happy. So we have to let go of thinking we're getting a raw deal when we do good things, but we still suffer.
We do good things because it's the right thing to do, right?
We do good because it's the right thing to do.
And
Same reason we start the day with oatmeal rather than black coffee, a cigarette, and a donut.
in a world where conflict and war are ongoing realities, how do we stay open-hearted without becoming overwhelmed or just shutting down?
I guess it's partially a choice by using affirmations like that describe what you just said. And secondly, asking help from a higher power and from the people around you whom you respect.
Thank you so much, Dave, for taking the time to talk today. If someone wants to look into your work, I know you're retired now, But what's the best place or best way for people to
It's
look?
davericho.com, DAVERICHO, like Rich O,
Mhm.
.com. And there you'll see my books and my talks and so forth.
And any final message to someone who's listening?
Just to keep trusting that there's more than just what we see.
Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.